Oi pessoal, estamos voltando agora com o segundo bloco e a gente vai falar um pouquinho das empresas que estão usando, como que isso está funcionando e que tipo de retorno que eles estão tendo junto com a Kira. Rob, how is the solution helping law firms, legal departments, and compliance?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, on the law firm side, I know I talked earlier about an M&A transaction.
Yeah.
Okay, so when Company A is buying Company B, Company A needs to understand everything that comes with Company B, and that process, for those who aren't familiar with it, is one where a law firm will throw a whole bunch of younger associates at the problem, and they will spend a lot of time kind of digging through those contracts to find the concepts. And that process can take kind of multiple times to get it right. A first-year associate will go through, often kind of tops out at a certain level of accuracy, and then another attorney will have to review, and finally you have a report ready, to send to the client. The problem with that is that often you aren't able to review all the contracts you need to, and the client is not very enthusiastic about getting a bill for that kind of work. And that's the trend that we're seeing. And so how Kira is helping those firms is if the software reads through in a much shorter period of time with far greater accuracy on a first run, the associate is then, rather than kind of creating that whole report from scratch, they're starting just to review Kira's results. So they're starting at a much higher point, spending the time that's actual doing the kind of lawyering work, refining those results, and then actually exporting right from the system. And really the main benefit there is that the work's done in a much shorter period of time. The client is happier with more kind of happy with the work product, and those hours from those younger attorneys can be spent on higher value work at the law firm. So not only in due diligence, but also something like a commercial lease review. You represent a client that owns a very large office building. They need to do a review of those leases to understand kind of the health of them, for lack of a better term. That's a tough process. So the software can actually read through and pull the concepts they need in a shorter period of time. Legal departments, which also can include compliance. For example, one example that we see that it's a big problem facing in-house departments, particularly banks, is LIBOR. LIBOR is going to be no longer used as the rate. I think in 2022 the rule goes into effect. So these corporations and these banks need to understand, quickly, kind of, in a pretty short period of time now, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of contracts potentially. What are the fallback provisions inside there? I need to take a look at those. If LIBOR is not going to be around anymore, what is? How are these contracts going to work now that that's not around? And it's a significant issue. Yeah, sure. So what the system is designed to do, we have a whole set of LIBOR concepts that have been trained that can more efficiently and accurately pull those out. Other things, something like we've worked with one very large corporation on a very large restructuring, and potentially hundreds of thousands of documents, if not more than that. And when there's a restructuring of that magnitude, you really need to understand all the liabilities that come along with it. And that's something that you could either throw a whole bunch of humans at, or you can have a system like Kira that's going to get you almost all the way there in a fraction of the time. And really something that, often those projects have a time constraint. We need this done by Friday, we need this done by a certain day. The machine doesn't suffer from fatigue. Yeah. It'll go right in there and actually do the work in a much shorter period of time and be satisfied with the results. I mean, there's many use cases. Those are just a couple.
Okay, cool. And Danny, can you tell us about some examples on this use case? Mm-hmm. Maybe with one law firm and one big company.
Yeah, sure. And just before I do, I'm going to circle back to my previous answer, just to mention that the machine learning algorithm is trained by subject matter experts from top firms and corporations around the globe. So that algorithm is put into practice by kind of instilling within the algorithm the knowledge that exists with subject matter experts. So it's being trained by professionals that have experience with those contracts, and we have them on staff at Kira. In terms of examples, Rob alluded to one, but we had a major automobile manufacturer who was doing a massive restructuring, and they used Kira for that one particular project, which probably looked at over 1 million contracts.
Okay.
And they were able to do the review in a fraction of the time, save a ton of costs, get to the bottom of certain elements of a contract that they otherwise wouldn't be able to uncover. So as Rob mentioned, otherwise it's a surface review. They can dig into the lower end contracts and really identify any risk. In terms of law firms, we've seen, and Rob can speak to it, but a number of major law firms all around the globe reduce costs for their clients, handle large transactions that otherwise would have required 10, 20 associates, and instead use Kira to augment that. And in place of that, they're focused on higher leverage work, which allows them to go out and get better work, be more competitive in the bid process, and prioritize their practice on kind of more interesting, novel work that allows them to really kind of exercise their unique legal abilities beyond just the grunt work of reviewing documents. So it really frees people up to kind of take ownership over their practice, over their profession, and kind of bear the fruits of this newfound kind of ability and freedom.
Okay, so the relationship with the clients is very important in the process, right?
The clients with the law firms?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
or the legal departments.
Yeah, absolutely. And again,
because
Rob
you're using their knowledge to train the models, huh?
Yeah, so the law firms are using their knowledge to train the documents. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I should have mentioned it earlier, but in addition to the built-in machine learning capability we also allow our customers to build their own machine learning models.
Okay.
So if there are unique novel concepts in their agreements that maybe we don't provide models for out of the box, they can use our proprietary software in the same manner that we do to build out unique models for their particular use case. So if they work in a particular industry that's maybe very prominent down here, for instance, but not so much in Canada or the US where we've built our models, they can build out machine learning models just for that use case and utilize them to the extent that we've actually seen certain customers build thousands of models to use on their own. So there's two different ways to get value out of Kira, and both can be hugely beneficial to an organization.
Yeah, and just I'll add just one thing to that on the training. The system out of the box comes with almost 1,000 now concepts built in, primarily in English. However, the system allows you to train in all Roman script languages using the same exact technology that our lawyers use to train ours. So case in point here in Brazil, of course, the language is Portuguese, and firms are using that to create their own concepts.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Got it.
Gente, obrigado. A gente recebeu aqui o pessoal da Kira, né, Systems, que é uma startup que foi muito grande, é uma das maiores legal techs do mundo, que está performando bastante com grandes companhias em mais de 40 países. A gente está recebendo eles na Sync nos próximos meses, estamos acertando a data ainda. Fiquem espertos aí para participar da Sync, em que eles estarão fazendo uma apresentação para a gente. Obrigado e tchau.